There's another regulation that came into effect recently on the 17th of January. It's called DORA, Digital Operational Resilience Act. Again, across the EU.
Yeah, and this impacts me.
It impacts many people, but imagine how important it is to ensure that your information, the information you keep on behalf of clients, for clients,
Yes.
their personal information, their data, their holdings, their portfolios, even keys of wallets of crypto exchanges. Imagine making sure that this is safe at any point in time, having proper controls, having proper safeguards, having proper policies and procedures to manage any leakages and to manage any incidents. It's an impossible task.
Of course it impacts me. So, I mean, we have, as DGM Tech Solutions, we've got access to the brokers' trading platforms.
Okay.
And so, are we working in a compliant way? Are we safeguarding the trading platforms?
Exactly. Other third-party provider.
Yeah,
exactly.
third-party
ICT
provider.
Third-party provider.
Correct.
Yeah.
I didn't wait for any regulation to start implementing procedures and policies that safeguard also DGM and also the clients. I started ISO certification more than a year ago, and with that comes all the requirements that come around DORA. It's good. I mean, it's a good thing. It's a headache, but it's for a good purpose.
I know, it's a good headache, and it's something, if you ask me, DORA was late to come into
I was going to say that.
Really. I'm also the chairman of the Association of Cyprus International Financial Firms. The association is the biggest association in members of financial firms on the island, with more than 90 members currently, almost 100, mostly under CYSEC. And we do all this work pro bono, on a pro bono basis, consultation with authorities, assistance with the membership, promotion of their interests, and promotion of the general well-being of the industry, and contributing to growth of the industry since 2001. And one important thing we did a few years back is we actually pushed also with CYSEC and with the authorities to introduce something, which they did ahead of DORA implementation. 1 or 2 years back, they issued a circular, CYSEC, which raised the alarm for MiFID firms, or actually all, not only MiFID firms, but also fund managers and any other regulated firm in the financial services industry in relation to ICT issues and risks, and in a way paved the way towards DORA and requested everyone to take actions ahead of DORA being implemented. So I think it's definitely a good thing, late to come in, good that we have it now. But another, obligation, not one, a lot, which all the firms need to fulfill.
Welcome to the Financial Frontiers podcast. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that bell icon to get notified when we upload new content. Follow us on Spotify and give us a 5-star rating. It will help the channel, which I hope you love so much. And another episode of the Financial Frontiers podcast. Today I will call a veteran in the industry, someone who's in that works in the background, let's call it, but a very important service for the industry, one of the more dominating, let's call it, important companies. Demetris Taxitaris, the CEO of S.Platis. Looking forward to a conversation here, which will be, I guess, mainly around regulation, the licensing, how it's changing the crypto landscape. Let's go to history, how this industry has evolved. Please introduce yourself, Dimitri. Thank you very much for your time.
Dino, I'm so happy to be here. Veteran sounds like too old, though. But it's I've been around for a few years now, I guess. CEO of S.Platis. Most people know us here in Cyprus, being market leaders in what we do. We're mainly involved in compliance, risk management, internal audit, information security, operational resilience. We have automated solutions for brokers mainly, but also in the regulatory technology space, reporting transactions, monitoring best execution, and many others. We also are involved in education extensively through the European Institute of Management and Finance. The company started off like more than 20 years ago. I was involved initially as a lecturer. I was heading the asset management unit of Bank of Cyprus, interestingly, back then. And I was involved as a lecturer, as giving seminars effectively in relation to the regulatory framework back then. I remember then MiFID came into effect, MiFID 1. It was in November 2007, what a breakthrough, which was a uniform framework for financial services, for investment services provision throughout the European Economic Area. Back then, there was a rush of everyone to understand what the new framework was about. And then at some point, I remember that, first CFD brokers started coming over in Cyprus, showing interest. I wasn't at the firm back then. I joined the firm in 2015. I'm now 10 years with it.
So you're talking back in, did you say 20 years ago, when you were in the Bank of Cyprus?
I was 2001 till 2013. Yes, I left 2013 as head of asset management.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so back then, the MiFID framework, when did that get introduced? You mentioned 2007.
2007, end of 2007, MiFID was introduced.
And so what was followed before that? I mean, what was the framework that...
Before MiFID, there was a kind of a prelude. I remember in 1999, 2000, 2001, we had back then the whole thing about the Cyprus Stock Exchange, the big bang, the bubble, crash, the bubble, everything back then. And then, if I'm not mistaken, an expert in financial services law came over. I think it was from Greece back then, but effectively, what was used was the UK framework combined with some touches from the EU framework, if I'm not mistaken, back then, probably mostly the UK framework was transposed into the Cypriot law. Yes. And this was to 2003, 2004.
Because it was before we joined the EU.
We joined 2004.
The EU.
Yes, 2004, May, I think.
Yes,
May.
Yes.
Probably April, May.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was then. But it wasn't. It was not a uniform framework, part of a uniform framework, and it did not provide a passport. That's a big breakthrough with MiFID, the fact that everything became uniform and you could use a passport throughout the EEA to provide services. So through a mere notification to any to your home regulator, which is then communicated to any member state's regulator, effectively you can provide services anywhere in the EU, utilizing your firm's license locally, effectively.
Right. And so I guess, for the audience, obviously there are individuals who might have no clue what we're talking about, and just for the sake of give a short description of what MiFID is. What does it stand for? I keep forgetting them. Markets in financial
financial instruments directive. And of course, markets in financial instruments regulation. MiFID 2, if I'm not mistaken, 10 years later, MiFID 2 was introduced together with MiFIR, the regulation.
Right.
which doesn't require transposition to local law and is effective immediately, any regulation. So effectively what MiFID is about is it regulates the provision of investment services throughout the European Union, the European Economic Area. So the resumption and transmission of orders, execution of orders, that commonly is called brokerage services, investment advisory services, portfolio management services with discretionary powers. So somebody can manage your portfolio on your behalf. Some professional expert can manage your portfolio on your behalf. Dealing on own account is regulated when provided to third party in combination with other investment services and in relation to third parties, and the operation of markets like multilateral or other trading facilities, which is like mini stock exchanges effectively. So all these are investment services and activities which are regulated in the financial services industry, together with the relevant financial instruments. So different types of financial instruments like funds, equities, bonds, derivatives on any type of variable, including crypto, actually, interestingly, are defined as financial instruments, yes.
As a CFD?
Actually, you can have both.
Oh, okay.
You can have both a contract for difference, i.e. a CFD, or a derivative instrument on any variable, including crypto.
Got it.
Assets. And they are all defined as financial instruments.
And that's under MiFID.
This is, by the way, interesting because a lot of crypto exchanges, especially the big ones globally, currently offer not only the ability for their clients to provide services to buy and sell crypto assets, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any other, but also they give them the ability to trade in, let's say, futures in crypto assets. Those crypto asset services, in terms of the spot, the asset, are actually come under MiCA regulation, the new MiCA regulation, which was introduced end of the year last year, 2024. But the futures, the derivatives in those assets,
is under the
are financial instruments, actually, and they come under MiFID. Yes. So these are two separate licenses required to operate effectively.
So then, what is the major difference that the MiCA is required for then? So if you're just break it down, right? So if you're a brokerage, you can offer the CFDs and you don't need a MiCA. You don't need to be regulated under the MiCA per se. So where does MiCA come in?
And this is why all brokers have been operating, for the last 10-15 years. No MiCA was in place. Some of them might have operated in derivatives or CFDs in crypto assets, since they are defined as financial instruments without an issue, but they could not operate in crypto assets, cryptocurrencies per se. So they could not give the ability to their clients to buy and sell Bitcoin or any other crypto asset. This is a big breakthrough with MiCA now, which allows a firm which is authorized under MiCA to provide the ability to its clients to trade or receive other services, for that matter, in crypto assets, in spot cryptocurrency transactions such as Bitcoin or other.
Got it.
Yeah. So, interestingly also, the new MiCA regulation, the latest version, which came into effect, allows the same firm to be authorized both as a MiCA firm, but also a MiFID firm at the same time. There are, of course, other considerations like segregating liability or risk management matters or banking issues for that matter, that clients take into account in order to decide. And many keep them separate eventually, but the ability is there and can be done. It's doable.
And so what is that main differentiation that you need to be a MiCA regulated to do what over and above MiFID?
If you would like to provide your clients with the ability to trade in spot crypto assets, cryptocurrencies, then you need a MiCA license. Mm-hmm. You can also provide them the ability to keep cryptocurrencies in wallets, so safekeeping. In other words, in what we call hot wallets, let's say,
yes,
for their Bitcoin holdings or other cryptocurrencies. Or if you want to provide them with advice or even portfolio management mm-hmm. in relation to portfolios in crypto assets, again, you need a MiCA license.
Right.
Effectively, the big difference is the instrument we are talking about and not the service per se. Because you have similar services under both, more or less. Mm. You can do brokerage, you can do investment advice, you can do portfolio management, safekeeping, you can operate a crypto exchange under MiCA. But the main difference is, in terms of the MiFID firm, you have to do it in relation to financial instruments, which excludes any type of spot cryptocurrencies. Right. Cryptocurrencies would come under MiCA.
Got it. So, as we're talking about regulation, obviously you've had a lot of discussions around this and what should be regulated and not. And, myself, I've been more involved on the technology side, but obviously I've had a lot of conversation around the compliance. It's just part of
because the two are converging, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I mean,
of course. I mean, when we provide our services, we need to know at least, we have to have the knowledge on the compliance at least. Configuring leverage or whatever it is, there's many things that it touches on. But as we talk about this, now I'm thinking, and maybe this is already regulated. So here's a question, right? So we have all these different asset classes, which are investment instruments, markets. Real estate is one as well.
Correct.
And so,
but it's not a financial instrument per se.
It's not a financial instrument, but it's an investment asset.
Correct. In the alternative space.
And so, shouldn't a real estate developer be regulated under MiFID?
The short answer is no.
They shouldn't, but why not? That's my question.
But what I can tell you is that interestingly, we are talking about one of the most regulated markets that you can think about. I mean, the financial services industry is a really, really heavily regulated market, heavily regulated industry, and also there's no often I find that there's no proportionality. So the same requirements or obligations imposed on a small firm can be imposed on a big bank. So in that sense, the regulation itself is pushing you to become bigger and bigger or disappear, unfortunately. So it's much more difficult as time goes by. It's much more difficult for new entrants to go into the market unless they have a critical size. And the main reason all these crypto exchanges now, or the big ones exist, is because it's been an unregulated market and suddenly becoming regulated. So they already have a critical mass to showcase. Right. Otherwise, it's extremely difficult to adjust to this new to this environment and exist with all these obligations and regulations in place and to keep up. I mean,
it's a massive overhead.
It's not only MiFID or MiCA. It's also everything around it. I mean, imagine all these firms have to do with technology.
Right.
They are leveraging on technology. Both brokers and crypto firms. So if you think about it, the risks are massive. And there's another regulation that came into effect recently on the 17th of January. It's called DORA, Digital Operational Resilience Act. Again, across the EU,
Yeah, and this impacts me.
It impacts many people. But imagine how important it is to ensure that your information, the information you keep on behalf of clients, for clients, their personal information, their data, their holdings, their portfolios, even keys of wallets of crypto exchanges. Imagine making sure that this is safe at any point in time, having proper controls, having proper safeguards, having proper policies and procedures to manage any leakages and to manage any incidents. It's an impossible task.
I know. And, the DORA...
How does that impact you?
Of course it impacts me. So, I mean, we have, as DGM Tech Solutions, we've got access to the brokers' trading platforms.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay.
And so, are we working in a compliant way? Are we safeguarding the trading platforms?
Exactly. Other third party provider.
Yeah,
exactly.
third
party provider.
Correct.
Yeah. We advise a lot of them actually.
So it does impact me, and I didn't wait for any regulation to start, implementing procedures and policies that safeguard, both also DGM and also the clients. I started ISO certification a year ago, more than a year ago, and with that comes all the requirements that come around DORA, and it's good. I mean, it's a good thing. It's a headache, but it's for a good purpose.
I know, it's a good headache, and it's something, if you ask me, DORA was late to come into
I was going to say that.
Really. Apart from being the CEO of S.Platis group, I'm also the chairman of the Association of Cyprus International Financial Firms. The association is the biggest association in members of financial firms on the island, with more than 90 members currently, almost 100, mostly under CYSEC. And, we do all this work pro bono, on a pro bono basis, consultation with authorities, assistance with the membership, promotion of their interests, and promotion of the general well-being of the industry, and contributing to growth of the industry since 2001. And one important thing we did a few years back is we actually pushed also with CYSEC and with the authorities to introduce something, which they did ahead of DORA implementation. 1 or 2 years back, they issued a circular, CYSEC, which raised the alarm for MiFID firms, or actually all not only MiFID firms, but also fund managers and any other regulated firm in the financial services industry in relation to ICT issues and risks, and in a way paved the way towards DORA, and requested everyone to take actions ahead of DORA being implemented. So I think it's definitely a good thing, late to come in, good that we have it now, and but another obligation, not one, a lot, which all the firms need to fulfill.
Of course. I mean, there's so many different stories that we've come across where not having your infrastructure and generally your ICT under check and safeguarded, things can go very wrong. And it's all a good thing. Always, again, late. I think any regulation that you look at is whenever they enter in, it's always late, because it's after the fact, where the regulation need arises when you see, this segment, this group of people got hurt in this space. As it's unregulated, we need to start putting rules over here. Yeah. And so it's always after the fact.
I agree. And Mika is another example whereby
crypto,
whereby I saw repeatedly European authorities, even the ECB, arguing that the crypto asset space is not that it's not that systemic, and it's still a small market, relatively isolated from the traditional banking system. Then FTX broke out, and the whole other issues in the US, and suddenly they decided to regulate it.
But even before FTX, right? FTX was one that was a real big atomic bomb. But even before FTX, there were some big crashes like Mt. Gox.
Yes, there were a few.
There were a few, that were significant in size, but didn't hit mainstream media, let's call it. Only the people who are involved in the industry knew about it.
True. Well, interestingly, I'm not even sure now that they have managed to address, or MiCA managed to address, all the issues in the crypto space. But still, I have to give it to the European authorities that this is the first regulation of its kind in a global jurisdiction, let's say. So that I have to give it to them. The divergence I observe, though, is at the European level, is between the approach of ESMA and the approach of, let's say, the EBA or the ECB, where it's like banks and central banks in particular appear as if and pretend as if the crypto asset industry does not exist, and they even turn a blind eye. They don't want to support it. They don't take crypto asset clients at all, and I can understand that from a specific bank's perspective. I can understand being unwilling to take on specific industries.
They see it as a threat to them, to their existence. But they have to. I don't think they will have a choice.
Even MiCA has some aspects which touch upon payment service providers like EMIs and payment institutions. So at some point something has to give there, and there has to be some kind of convergence between the banking and the crypto industry, etc. But what I cannot understand is some banks' approach to even go as far as shutting down accounts of anyone who has even traded in crypto assets. I mean, we're in 2025.
It's so aggressive. I think they need to maybe recheck their approach. But the good thing, I think, in terms of regulation in MiCA, the regulator has got at least a template to follow with the existing regulation for the traditional market, let's call it, the financial services sector with the investment assets. And they've got a framework to follow. It's just almost like a copy paste, make some adjustments up to a certain extent. And the speed at which that regulation becomes really valuable and effective, I think, is a lot quicker than what it was. And you can attest to this. You can say, based off of your experience, from before even a framework existed, with the introduction of MiFID 1, and then afterwards MiFID and MiFID 2 and MiFID, you've seen this happen unfold in front of you. And so, just to go back, let's talk a little bit more about your experience. So, you were a lecturer while you were in Bank of Cyprus?
I was giving some, training and doing seminars on the regulatory framework back then.
Mm-hmm. And
MiFID and pre-MiFID.
Right. And I guess, the clientele or whoever, the demographic, let's call it, that was interested in Cyprus has also shifted. And, as we've kind of gone through these different phases, one is, we entered the EU, then we switched from the pound to the euro, 2008.
2008, yeah.
Then it was the banking crisis here with the bail-in and the haircut, and of crypto, and all of these different changes. Could we maybe take us through a journey over here, and what it's been like for you? What have been the biggest challenges along the way?
Yeah, I mean it's been a great journey actually, and a massive change. And effectively, if you think about it, the financial services industry here went from, and when I say financial services industry, I'm talking about the international presence effectively, and not locals. I mean,
Of course.
we indeed have let's say 5-6 firms now which have been around since before 2000, but the real growth and the real substance here was created when foreigners started coming over and setting up firms in Cyprus as part of international groups, and as part of their multi-jurisdictional presence. And effectively, this happened, the big breakthrough with MiFID. The big breakthrough of MiFID was the fact that it made the whole European Economic Area a single area of providing services through passporting. This was a big breakthrough, and somebody who had a license in Cyprus could actually, through a simple notification to, let's say, CYSEC or its home regulator, operate in any other EU or EA member state. So that was in MiFID 1 was introduced November 2007. It took a few years. The first online brokers started appearing hesitantly, let's say. CYSEC was also a bit hesitant at the time. I remember back then, I wasn't, as I said, I was working for Bank of Cyprus in asset management, but I remember discussions like, what is this broker doing? What exactly are we talking about? Is this Forex a spot instrument? Why should it have a license, since it's Forex, it's currency conversion, if you think about it. Yeah. So it took some time for people to understand that we're not talking about spot currency conversion, like I give you 10 euros, you give me 8 sterling pounds, let's say.
Or let me take you back memory lane. The Thomas
travelers checks.
The travelers checks.
I remember those. Okay, we are old, I know. But yeah, I mean, it took some time for people to realize, and even regulators to understand what are we talking about here. Are we talking about financial instruments, and what type of financial instruments? I mean, the notion, the term contract for difference, didn't even, it was entirely new. Yeah. So people realized at some point that we're talking about, something different, a derivative instrument, probably on a currency pair, which wasn't spot. There was no delivery. It was cash settled mostly. Gradually, the society of this industry started being educated, and also the regulators started being educated. There was back and forth, I remember, with CYSEC back then, even with the central bank, which regulates the conversion of currencies. Back then, there were some brokers which were regulated by the central bank back then. And they didn't know if they had to get another license from CYSEC. Eventually, CYSEC gave another license. This is probably in 2011, 10, 11, 12. And, the whole thing started rolling. And, even others, through word of mouth, others came over, and it became even more and more popular as the time went by. And, where we are now is like Cyprus being the biggest online brokers hub within the European Union, if you think about it. And this is a huge ecosystem, and a very, very critical argument for others to come over. If you think about the position of Cyprus strategically at the globe between Europe, Asia, especially Asia, which has a lot of such businesses these days, but also a lot of millionaires or even billionaires. Wealth is shifting from other regions, from the west to east globally, and the position of Cyprus, the proximity with in terms of time zones, but also with the UAE and the Middle East, combined with the fact that it's a member of the European Union, and it's got fully up-to-date and harmonized frameworks to allow operating as an entry point and as a stepstone for expansion within the common bloc. The use of common law, simple stuff, use of common law, taxes, corporate tax, but also personal tax, and non-dom status. But also all this combined with the existence of this ecosystem, which tells people that, we are open to fintech firms and we are welcoming in a way fintech firms which want to be compliant. Is itself an argument, a really big argument for more and more businesses to come over and set up here.
And also a very mature regulator who's done this rinse and repeat and, very experienced in the space. They know exactly what, very experienced, right? They've regulated many brokers.
I agree. This is how CYSEC is also perceived by the broader market, I should say, that, we have clients coming over to us and say, we've heard that CYSEC understands technology, they understand financial technology, they are open to discuss new ideas through the sandbox that they've got in place. So in relative terms within the European Union, the financial industry of Cyprus and the online brokers here are the biggest retail market of the common bloc. That says something, and that says something to the brokers looking to set up, and that is a reason as to why many big crypto exchanges are looking to set up their MiFID business, at least on the island.
Right. You mentioned in 2011 is when CYSEC issued out its first license. Do you remember which broker that was?
I'm not sure. Was it? I'm not sure if it was eToro.
eToro?
I'm not sure. Maybe. But as I said, I wasn't with the group back then, so my memory may not be that good.
The Mika, the first one they gave out, was it to Revolut? Was that the first one? For crypto? Was it Revolut or
the Mika license?
Yes.
The Mika license in January.
Sorry, the CASP.
Mika was also eToro, if I'm not mistaken, because it's announced a few weeks back from now. But the CASP license, maybe it was Revolut, yes.
I think so.
Maybe it was Revolut. Probably Revolut, I think. Number one.
Interesting.
Yeah, but that was only registration under the AML law.
Oh, not to operate a proper crypto, not for
no. Back then, like 2 years back, it was only what was required was only registration under the AML law. You should be able to submit a number of documents, really, just because CYSEC decided to do it that way in order to prepare firms for MiCA. But full MiCA regulation went into effect 30th of December 2024. So this is all these firms which are actually listed on the register as we speak. They are grandfathered for a period of 18 months, and thus they're given the chance to apply for a full MiCA license, or if they don't manage to get one within 18 months, they have to close down, theoretically.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm going to share a story over here on why, it's so important. The DORA, as you mentioned, it's come so late, and I can give a story on how important it is to have regulation on not just these firms where it's obvious why they need to be regulated, but also, how's the technology, the ICT aspect of things handled. I'm not going to put names here, but I'll tell you exactly what happened. It's a first hand, right? This happened over here with my company. So we're a Microsoft partner. Okay. And so we provided the subscriptions on Azure for the exchange to load up their infrastructure and set up the exchange. Long story short, this company decided to shift away from DGM services, and the individuals who were hired in the firm over here didn't have knowledge. They didn't really have knowledge, and I got a request from the new director that replaced the company. He said, please delete the subscriptions, and so I said,
delete or move?
Delete. So he was of the opinion that it wasn't really needed. It was a small invoice, right? It was €1,000 a month. But I honestly didn't know, because I don't get involved in what is actually set up on the infrastructure, but I was pretty sure that it was important. So I told him, listen, I want you to send me another email, but I need you to make sure internally, just make sure that you want me to delete these, because I'm pretty sure that these are needed. He sends back without hesitation, no, delete them. I know what I'm saying. I still didn't believe him, but I went ahead and what I did was I didn't delete, I suspended. 10 minutes later, the owner calls me, goes, what's happened? Or if I had proceeded to delete, I don't know how many crypto wallets would have been erased off of the ledger that they had, would have been deleted, gone. They would have lost what the exchange had in the hot wallets, not the cold. So, it was my preventative measures, let's call it my precautionary practice. I wasn't obliged to, and I wouldn't have had any problem, because I told him to confirm. I highlighted in bold and I said in red, make sure, and he said, just do it. And so I suspended, and with the suspension, I was able to just activate again. And so, there would have been jail time to the owner. There would have been disasters over there. And this is where the regulation is so important, where mistakes like this are prevented. Because you might have somebody that's not. There's got to be a process, a chain of authority with people that are competent, that know what they're talking about.
This is extremely interesting, because it's a case study not only of indicating that the right regulation and framework needs to be in place, but also the right governance arrangements need to be in place. So if you're asking me, why did this person, how was this person appointed at the first place? How was this person selected at the first place? How could this person take such an important decision without anyone giving an additional or a second approval, let's say?
Yeah.
And what was the role of the UBO at the same time? I mean, it's questions that you need to be able to answer. And if you're asking me, it's a failure of the whole governance arrangements in place and the UBO himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because here's what happens, right? Just a I can only guess, but I'm pretty sure that this is more or less what happened. Put him in as a new director. He's got a mandate, keep costs low. So he pulls up a sheet and says, what's this? I don't think we need this. Scratch it, delete, without looking at the details, and...
I know. And I agree with what you say. And I think that this highlights again the importance of having firms in this country and in this ecosystem which are compliant and want to be compliant. I'm not arguing that they have to be 100% compliant. There's nothing like that, by the way. The only firm which is 100% compliant is the firm which has no clients.
Yes.
This is what I always say.
Yes.
So let's not fool ourselves. But on the other hand, you need to make sure that you're 60%, 70, 80% compliant. And then also you need to make an effort to become even more compliant and keep that effort going. This is the point here. And this is the kind of firms we want and the kind of clients we want in the end of the day. And this is what the regulators themselves need to ensure, really, to ensure that on one hand they give they have the necessary processes and reviews and controls to give licenses swiftly, but having done a proper due diligence, but then on an ongoing basis, following granting the license, that supervision is done properly.
Yeah, because things change. I agree.
Because the problem of Cyprus, I don't know, for the last, I don't know how many years, one of the problems has been reputation. And this reputation actually is not the best. It has improved in recent years. There has been a notable improvement, I must say. But this reputation was tarnished not because of the financial services industry, but because of a number of other reasons, which had spillover effects and gave negative publicity globally for Cyprus. And this is what happens whenever some, media and big media, foreign media, want to, present allegations or whatever. They come up with a new card, probably outdated, but it's on us to make sure that these kind of things do not happen again.
Of course. Really. And at the end of the day, what the regulator is doing and what businesses like S.Platis is doing is protecting the industry, because if you just let everybody loose, open field, do whatever you want, it's not going to last. It'll just dwindle away into this dodgy space, and so we don't want that. That's what you're doing, protecting the industry and the consumer. And so moving forward, we have obviously different individuals. The demographic, I'm quite interested to know how has that shape shifted in terms of who are the owners of these investment firms that are coming into Cyprus and just generally that are offering brokerage services, how do you see the future of the industry here?
In terms of the demographics, this is another really interesting aspect, because we are talking about literally people from everywhere. We've got clients who are British, German, Polish, Lebanese, Israelis, Romanian, Emiratis, Chinese. I can think of examples as we speak. Australian.
That's global.
People from the US. It's literally everywhere. And this is obviously another important factor, which says that you don't have a specific reliance on any specific industry, or a country, or any demographics. You lower your risks this way, and striving to build on this industry and on this ecosystem will only benefit the country. Again, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying that it's risk-free entirely, but it's on us to ensure that these people who come over are checked diligently, and they are supervised carefully while here. And the other big thing about this industry is that it's an industry with presence in multiple locations, and often for us, understanding their business in Cyprus and providing them compliance services and keeping them happy translates into business elsewhere. We are often asked to assist them in other EU jurisdictions with their compliance matters. We are often requested to assist them in the UK. We anyway have a team in the UK, but even while we didn't, we were still requested to do that. We are often requested to assist them with other jurisdictions to get licenses, to monitor their AML practices, to build their policies, to assist them with authorities and mediate with authorities, to assist them with even finding talent in Cyprus or in other jurisdictions, even training with other frameworks. So this is not a business which operates only in Cyprus, and an industry which operates only in Cyprus, but it's an industry operating globally, which allows Cypriot providers, Cypriot people, employees to provide their services to these kind of companies and benefit from wherever they are globally.
Yeah, it's true. And this is actually something that has come up for me recently, because with DGM Tech Solutions, I've only whatever business has happened is just from networking and going into these events where we've seen each other quite a few times. I've not put a lot of effort around the SEO and my website and whatever. It's there, it exists, whatever. But I'm going to improve it now, and I'm not paying attention on the SEO. And then I get the question, where's your target audience? I don't know how to answer that question. It's global. It's really global. And so it's not just Cyprus. I mean, these brokerage firms are everywhere. And it's not just the brokerage firms, it's also the prop trading space, which I want to ask you about as well. So prop firms and, what does regulation look for them in the future? But just in terms of which is a target demographic, well, the only thing that I tell them is just English speaking, wherever there's English speaking, and that's it. Except the US. I mean, I think the US is still a market, but very regulated. Not many brokers over there.
I mean, the US typically is an animal of its own in financial services.
Yeah.
I know quite a few which are there already, and they have presence and they operate. They get their own licenses there, but I agree that there are restrictions which are not easy to bypass versus other jurisdictions, and they are not. I must admit, they're not. It's not a jurisdiction which is one of the favorite ones of online brokers in any case.
So competitive and very expensive.
Yes.
Tell me about the prop trading space.
It's an interesting space. It's not regulated per se, but it's, I would say, kind of indirectly regulated, because to one extent it's utilizing and leveraging on services provided by regulated firms. However, I wonder because there have been some issues in the prop trading space as well. I think like a year ago or 1.5 years ago, there was this Canadian firm that shut down. I can't remember the name now.
My FX book.
I think it was that one.
I think so, yeah.
So I'm just wondering, to what extent the authorities are looking at it, and I know at some point they've had it in the spotlight, but I don't know really if they would be able to get it into regulation and monitor what's going on. It's mostly I think for now it will stay out of the spotlight, and this is typical for regulators until something really bad happens, and then
Yes.
all of a sudden everybody wakes up. If something like that happen, of course, I'm not saying that.
Yes.
Well,
if you had to dissect that business, then I guess it comes to the light where regulation is required, and so you start off with. When it comes with onboarding customers, you got to do your KYC and your AML, I guess. Well, up to a certain extent, because there's not much AML that can happen there.
Exactly, and that's a difficult part.
Yes.
What kind of AML are you doing if we're not talking about
big deposits? Yeah.
Exactly, and the risk there is low, so it's mostly a different type of probably regulation required, and that is the difficult part of the authorities probably. Also, I'm not sure, because it's not regulated and it's not in the spotlight again, I'm not sure how big this market is at the moment.
It's massive.
And
it's massive. I can tell you that it's huge. We're seeing them popping up like mushrooms.
They do.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm not sure in terms of value. I see a lot of such companies. I agree. I'm not sure in terms of value.
You're saying in terms of how much money is flowing out of clients?
Yes.
Clients' money.
So there's I've seen some anecdotal evidence, but and figures, but I'm not sure if it's reliable enough to be able to say. This is the amount or not, or I'm guessing it's still, relatively smaller to...
Well, a lot of these firms are making a lot of money. So that money is coming from somewhere.
Agreed.
And so, it's in the form of, I guess, a subscription that they pay. So it's not... it's not their money that they're investing. They're buying their chance to get access, in theory, to more money, and then from there,
it's kind of like lottery tickets, let's say, or something. Tickets to play.
Yeah. So you basically subscribe to show your ability to trade.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if you don't pass the evaluation, then you can try again. So. Yeah, but it's not a thing of, there's an unlimited amount of money that I guess it's unlimited, but in terms of trading, right? When you're trading your own money, you got to be careful, because if you went and you took your whole life savings, you could just deposit into a trading account, and if you blow it, boom, that's it, you're done.
I know. One other important aspect here to consider is that, while an industry is out of regulation and out of focus, then it's not a problem of the financial regulator and the financial authority in the end of the day. So there's a fine line there, and nobody wants to have a problem which is not theirs. So if on one hand, I understand where you're coming from and what you're saying, that at some point this might become big, and it might become a big problem.
Yes.
But if you think about it, while it's still, quiet and a non-issue, a regulator would think, okay, if it's not big enough, then perhaps why making it an issue? And what happens with the online brokers often, which have to do with a lot of retail clients, etc. What happens is, and what alarms authorities typically, is client complaints.
Yes.
When client complaints reach regulators or legislators, like members of parliament and or even police authorities, this is when people get alarmed. And and I think these kind of things are the red flags that we should be looking for in terms of any industry, including this one, of course.
Right, that makes sense. And so that's why, when we say the regulator always comes after the fact, right? So after the complaints, after the service or industry has matured to the point where someone has been done in. I would argue, so there's two sides of the coin here. There's one is the regulators already got their hands full with dealing with issues that have surfaced, right? So
correct.
And then, where's the time to now look at what could potentially go wrong in all of these different areas? But then it's also nice to think if we had an ability to protect consumers before the actual complaints even come to be. But I think that's quite a difficult thing to happen,
It's quite difficult. One example, by the way, is what happened with the crypto asset industry in the US, and especially FTX. Yes. I mean, if you think about that, the regulatory framework back when FTX happened in the US wasn't that advanced and did not, cover all these crypto assets, cryptocurrencies that we're talking about today. Yes. But still, they were able to crack down on them based on other laws that they had in place. Like 100%. Often you have criminal liability, even if you have a Ponzi scheme or things like that, and you misappropriate money, you do fraud, etc. Yes. This is what happened, and this is how things evolved in the case of FTX in the US. Yes. So we do not need to assume that there has to be specific legislation and a specific framework covering this industry or any industry in order to monitor and go after any fraudsters or whatever. There's always the penal code and criminal liability. If needed, you can go back to that and use that to do any enforcement you would like. Right. In the end of the day, it will also go back to whether the authorities have the skills and ability to also build a case which can stand at the court, etc. Right. But in order to be, let's say, clear and not appear as negative, let's not assume that all prop trading firms are, have issues or they need to be regulated or whatever. So,
I've got some good examples of prop trading firms that are doing things by the book of their own book. Let's call it legitimate. Doing things proper, the FTMOs of the world. If regulation comes in place, this is the play. They are the playbook that a regulator can follow by and regulate the industry to a certain extent.
I think so, and this is typically what happens. The regulators would go and look at what the situation is, who is doing things right and who is not, and.
The sad thing about FTX, since you brought up FTX a few times here, is they reached such a massive scale, but kids that were just doing incredibly stupid things, right? If you had to take that business and hand it to individuals who know what they're doing, that FTX could have not hit that fate. It could have been a thriving business, because they just had this massive amount of clients that were interested in the product. It was just mismanagement of the funds, mismanagement
of everything, actually.
Yes.
So I agree with you. I mean, this is another classic example of, and a case study of a breakdown in governance arrangements throughout.
Yeah.
Zero governance, zero controls, zero internal checks. Anybody taking decisions on their own. And it's sad, but it's something which alarmed regulators and probably pushed for things to happen sooner than later.
I see some posts that Sam Bankman-Fried, whatever his name is, he's trying to get a pardon from Trump. And
he does? I didn't see that.
He's trying to get a pardon from Trump because Trump is letting a few people out that he feels was wrongly put in jail. But I don't think he should get it right because I think he's very aware of what he did. So
he gave an interview lately. I couldn't listen to all of it. It's quite extended, but I think to Tucker Carlson, it's worth.
Yes, I want to check it. Yes,
it's worth.
Interesting. Yeah. So, how do you see the future of this industry? What are the challenges you see coming up?
Look, first of all, I see activity keeping up. There's a lot going on. Online brokers are keeping up, and business doing quite well. I see more firms coming over. Lately, most of that interest comes from crypto exchanges, which, as I said, have also a MiFID business, a futures business, and it's quite a big chunk of their operations, and it's quite a big business, to be honest. It will take some time for regulators to also be able to adjust and be able to regulate this industry and this kind of business models, which are quite new. But again, that's expected. It's a process. It's a process for the firms themselves to adjust to the new regulations and to introduce new policies, procedures, compliance functions, get everything through the compliance function. There's always a conflict between business and compliance.
Yes.
If you think about it, business was used to doing anything that came to their mind without asking anyone. This is not the case any longer. You've got the bad cop there, the compliance officer looking, overseeing what you do. But, this is how things work. This is how things work in the whole world, rest of the world. Banks, investment firms, fund managers everywhere. So there's an adjustment process going on. But this is also business for local people and for Cyprus in general. So I think I see interest keeping up, and hopefully we will have another 1 or 2 good years ahead of us. The financial services industry on the island will likely grow. The ecosystem will become probably stronger. It's something we see, every day. We see also more technology firms coming over, which can also support this ecosystem, because obviously cannot exist on its own and without technology support.
Yes.
I think we're doing well.
Good, yeah. This thing about the pulling from both ends. Compliance has a job to protect the company, in terms of being compliant. But then also the business the growth. They're looking to bring on business, and sometimes there's a clash. And I've got an example here that I'm very happy to share. I'm not going to share names again, but I had a client who was starting out, right? Expenses were higher than the revenues. They were just starting out. And so I thought, let me help them out. I've got I had a nice business case. It seemed like a nice business case, but from a jurisdiction that was kind of not regarded as okay, let's call it just gray area, right?
Okay.
So I brought, well, not even gray area, but just not the best reputation, but big business, right? They could have covered their expenses and even be profitable and at least had a foundation of revenue. So I brought it to my client, try to help them. I said, here's a ongoing introducing broker who can pick up your revenues, whatever. The compliance shut her down. She goes, no, I don't want this. And so she did her job immaculately. Perfect. She kept the company super safe, let's say. But that business eventually went on to stop. And I think that could have saved them, right? Because on the one hand, you obviously don't want to onboard any money laundering people or, some issues. But this was not the case. It was just, it needed a little bit more attention, just make sure that you're monitoring all the calls, you're making sure that they're not doing something that's going to get you in trouble, but at least you got some business. And so you got to find that middle ground. Because how are you going to survive otherwise? It's a competitive landscape.
Exactly. And you know what this reminds me? I mean, the easiest thing for a compliance officer is to say no.
Reject.
To everyone.
Yeah. I'm perfect at my job.
It's
No.
to say no and remember what I said before.
Yes.
The most
100%.
compliant firm is the one with no clients.
Yes.
It's fully compliant,
Yes.
but no clients, no fees, nobody's paid, you cannot have employees, no nothing.
Yes.
You go out of business.
Yes.
So we need to be, realistic here and pragmatic and understand that, it's a process. And our philosophy at the office and at the group is not to say no, but actually to find ways for people to manage their risks, remain compliant, and give solutions to clients instead of say no. 100%. And this is the best compliance officer ever. The guy who can find solutions for their clients and can guide their clients through while remaining compliant and without saying no to their clients.
That's it.
This is a key to remaining, to exist. Otherwise, you go out of business and you're done.
Of course. 100%. So, Demetri, we've been speaking at least for an hour here already.
No.
Believe it or not. Yeah.
Wow.
It goes quick. I know you have limited time. It's been a pleasure to have you here. If there's anything you want to conclude on and just let the audience know where to find. So just another question. It's S.Platis or MAPS?
It's MAP. It used to be two companies, MAP and S.Platis.
Oh, okay.
S.Platis is the name of our chairman and founder.
Oh, okay.
So they merged eventually and it became one, MAP, S.Platis.
And what is MAP? What was
MAP
originally?
were the initials of the people that initially set up the first company, Metaxas Agapiou Platis, actually.
Oh, okay.
So they had it. The three of them had a company, and then they merged with this other one of Dr. Platis. So it became a unified group, I guess.
Well, there you go. Whoever didn't know now knows.
But it's a brand in Cyprus, and
Yes.
everybody. When you say everybody in the financial services industry, at least everybody knows us. So
Yes.
And thanks for asking, by the way. No, but it's been a pleasure for me, a real pleasure. I think you're doing a great job. Keep it up. I like a lot the name and the concepts and the chats. I watch them regularly.
Thank you.
And it's been a pleasure to be here and discussing all these interesting issues. I know to some might have sounded boring because it's compliance, but in the end of the day, what you need to have in mind is finding solutions and remaining innovative. And this is what we always promote at the group, trying to find solutions and being innovative in order to remain ahead of not only competition, but other jurisdictions, and helping clients effectively and efficiently. This is what we're looking to do.
Of course. And, I guess part of a service that's happening over here with the podcast is you deliver in a coffee shop talk format, something that many might regard as boring, but it's important to know, I think, topics such as this. And just in casual conversation from professionals in the industry such as yourself, thank you very much for your insight here. I enjoyed it very much, and thank you for the kudos on this. I'm just going with the flow and then let the chips fall in place.
Anyway, all the best for the future, and thank you, Dinos, again so much for this.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Thank you.